Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kivi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Kivi, and I'm your host. I'm sitting with Derek again, and we've been on this kind of debunking what's current truck driver versus the old school tendencies and what we believe is different and what we want to help challenge this industry to get back to. And we've talked about hard work. We've talked about keeping a clean interior. And we kind of want to shift now to the outside of the truck, the exterior. And of course, you know, this isn't all about polish and pride, but we'll talk a little bit about what we grew up with. And then maybe now a little bit of what we'd like to see the industry navigate towards, and maybe some tips and tricks for everybody to help focus on and the things we look for when we see a truck come in. But first, this is the week before Christmas. Like, it's kind of that last little push, not only for trucking, right? Everybody's trying to build up a paycheck that's sustainable because of the Christmas week. Many people will be spending time with family, and and that comes down to the earning as much as you can right up to it. But also, it's your last little sprint if you've got to do any Christmas shopping to get done. And I guess, Derek, I want to ask you, I know you personally, but how are you doing on your Christmas shopping now that we're a week out from Christmas?
We're dialed.
So that means you've done none of it yet?
No, actually, pretty much everything taken care of. Surprisingly, usually it's all of a sudden the last minute, oh crap, I got to get this done. But I mean, now with the luxuries of Amazon and ordering everything online, the fear of I got to get to the mall has gone away quite a few years ago. So definitely sitting good.
If you've touched the mall in the last couple of years, especially around this time, but they do fill up still. It's not, you would think that it would kind of go opposite, right? Like they would be ghost towns, but no. It's still, like you can imagine, extremely busy. Everybody's trying to get the last minute thing.
I try to do all I can to add to the trucking commerce. So by ordering shipped to home, keep it in the industry. Getting it delivered.
Yeah, it's a mad rush. So if you were still out in the truck full time, what would be a gift that you would want? Like as like being gone and on the road, what's something that the nifty things that people are having nowadays, regarding trucking? You think of anything?
I'm pretty simplistic, really, but I mean, all the little gadgets and stuff you see now, especially the different types of phone holders and things on the dashes from a safety perspective side, I think I'd be more interested in stuff like that. Otherwise, a solid pack of gloves is always.
I was just going to say that. Gloves.
I mean, you can never have enough gloves. Anything to do with winter gear type stuff. Because it all gets worn out or gets cut, depending on what you're doing, or jump off something, catch. It just, that stuff gets weathered.
Well, and wet, right? Like the salty roads, wet. You can ruin not ruin, I shouldn't say that. I remember having gloves standing up all over, because if they get a little salt on them from the road, once they dry, they harden right up. I remember having them all over the floor mat, though. Like you've even though they may be a little crunchy, you got to have several sets to just get through a winter, and cold fingers and straps being slushy and chains and grime. Yeah. So if somebody's out there looking for a gift for their special someone, whether it's family, whatever, it doesn't matter. You want to get a trucker a gift. I think some of the really cool things are gloves. Like you said, a cell phone holder, that's an amazing gift because you're promoting safety and you're keeping that person safe in there. Some of the things that I really enjoy is a flashlight. Nothing wrong with a good flashlight, especially now. It's headlamp, a handheld flashlight, a headlamp. And another cool thing, and I don't think ever gets old, is a pocket knife. Like, I don't think, you might have one already, but there's something special about you get a gifted pocket knife. Plus, there always is something that you can use that for, whether it's shortening a strap, opening this or that. there's always a good gift. And there's a lot of little other things that I've never tested, but I've seen like coffee mugs you can plug in, right? Or electric, where you can keep your coffee warm all day long. Never really got into one of those, but I feel like it's probably something, you could really make good use of.
And some of those different items like that, we also have to remind everybody to be mindful and taking and putting a 4-port cigarette lighter thing into the trucks and then trying to run a coffee pot, microwave, boot dryer, all the other things doesn't necessarily work in the truck. I mean, it blows fuses and stuff. So you got to be mindful with some of that stuff and just remember that the trucks can only handle so much stuff. But yeah, there is a lot of neat little things out there nowadays that take care of pretty much everything, like you said, especially with the little coffee pot or warmer. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Sunglasses. There's a million things. I'm just trying to think back to, like you said, I was always very simplistic. And it's funny because even when I went, this might date me some, and I'm not really that old, but I had a DVD player that you tipped up. Now, it wasn't even a laptop. It was a DVD player.
Yeah.
You tipped up, and that was my form of entertainment. And a lot of that was due to just changing trucks all the time. I didn't necessarily bolt the TV on, but I think in other things, pens, I don't know how much you can say to a good pen. There's nothing better. I know logbook, that was, I'm still thinking back to filling out my logbooks too. And those, like, I enjoyed having a nice pen and doing it, but I still think back now to paperwork and just organizing and neat and tidiness, having a good pen.
Just a simple notebook, even. I don't know how many times I see bill ladings come in and the driver's got all their notes for everything on the back of it. And it's like, if you just had a notebook, you keep that
clipboard. So a clipboard with a note, a clipboard with little things like that. You don't realize, but those are things that really help a driver if they don't have one. Nice pen, nice clipboard, notepad, pocket knife, flashlight, headlamp, gloves, winter hat.
All the little fun stuff, especially with the wintertime. Like you said, gloves, you could, realistically in the wintertime, you need about 6 to 10 pair to be able to cycle through.
Different variations. You need some that are thin. You need some that are the heavy winter ones because you might not be getting wet, but you need to stay warm. Pocket warmers. I don't know how much value there is in there, but it's still something that you can have in the truck.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so just relative right now. If this would be summer and we were talking about this, you'd be saying, a nice, maybe a little fan or something extras, but so situational. But yeah, thinking of Christmas and being in this time of year, all of that would be fun. So make sure to consider the little things. You don't got to go extravagant. Blanket maybe even, or like a small blanket. Doesn't have to be like a comforter type level, but those little extra things to help create, comfort of home inside your truck.
Yep.
So diving back into it now, I'm talking about the exterior, and I want to kind of go back to where this industry was as we grew up and where it is to slightly now, where I feel like it's lost connection a little bit. And I'll take it back to when we used to ride with our uncles. There was a specific process every time you got done for the week, right? And of course, maybe, or not through the week, even when they got home from a trip, wherever they went, was pull it up, get the soap bucket out, get the soap and sponges, and we're washing this thing. I remember our Uncle Randy, you'd get done from a week logging, and we get back and you're kind of probably like any situation, you're done. You're ready to be done. You know what I mean? It's been a long week, had fun. Now we're parked, or almost, you think, and you feel like it's time to call it a week. Nope. Just like I said, we roll that soap bucket out, put some soap in there, get the hoses going. And Randy always had like the worst buckets. The wheels never rolled. Like you would almost dump it every time you tried to move it. Cold water. Some of the things that help and make truck washing enjoyable, a warm bucket of soap helps. Yeah. Like there's nothing, at least when you're continually touching cold aluminum and steel and fiber, whatever, you can warm your hands up by dunking them into the soap. And his was some of the toughest truck washing I think I've ever experienced. Well, shop's cold, you know what I mean? The garden hose wasn't a pressure washer. So you got mud and all this grime. And you want to talk about luxury of truck washing versus bringing it back old school. Yeah, the little garden hose, that'll take a couple hours to get a good wash. But that's what we did. And that's what he did every time. Yeah, and the biggest thing, some of the stuff I remember, obviously we all started out washing, but was they wanted them washed
everybody wanted them washed either Friday night or Saturday morning because they didn't want the trucks to sit dirty all weekend in the shop.
Yeah.
Get all that stuff off them. And if you didn't, you were in deep trouble, and there was a lot of angry people with you if you didn't get the trucks cleaned come Monday. If they were rolling out of the shop, which didn't happen very often, but sometimes whether you got sick or whatever the case may be and couldn't do it, but we were usually back there Monday night or Tuesday night getting them clean because there were some very angry people because the trucks weren't clean. Even the washing, at the original old shop we used to have down in downtown Duluth, you couldn't fit a trailer inside, so we had to wash outside. So, it'd be below zero, and you'd go out there and spray for half a time, which you had hot water, but as you were spraying, the water was refreezing to the trailer. So, it was literally miserable. And we take turns, me and my cousin. I'd do one half of it, and then he'd go out and do the half, because you'd be froze solid. Icicles hanging off your nose, you name it. It was pretty intense, but we had to get them clean. If we didn't get that stuff off, even though we couldn't, when it come to soaping them, it was almost pointless, but we still would try. You'd have one person spraying to get it warm with the hot water, and then you'd soap, and it'd literally just all freeze right back to the trailer, and then you'd hurry up, come back, and try and spray it off. But it was a big thing for getting the trucks clean. Now it's a lot harder here to do in Duluth. We try to do the best we can with it, with, getting people, I guess most of the time it's students or younger guys, because typically most people don't want to wash trucks. I actually kind of enjoyed it when I used to do it, and we take pride in it. And I found a lot of times I couldn't even have my friends come help me, because I'd end up going back and rewashing everything they did, because the thing would look like a cheetah.
There's an art to it.
Yeah, you had to really just slow down and take your time and do it right. But there was also many times where you still had to go back and wipe in spots, because the trucks would be so dang dirty, running through salt and all that stuff all week long.
Well, and it stands out white. A red truck with a gray-white kind of salt pattern. Like if you miss a good chunk on a hood, you're going to see it once it dries.
Yeah.
It's funny, like bringing that up, right? So I remember when, like you said, all of us, you, myself, Dakota, all wash trucks as just part of the evolution of getting into trucking.
Mm-hmm.
But there was times and obviously I was much younger than, like you said, right? It's kind of you're younger and that getting used to driving a truck. I remember our drivers used to even be so detailed. Like and I don't know why I did this, right? I was in the truck for 4 minutes pulling it in and out, but you'd change the radio station or you'd adjust the seat height. And I'd get calls on Monday like, hey, please leave my seat alone and don't change the radio station. And back then you're like, what does that matter? Like it's preset, right? Just hit the button and air your seat up. But that's their home, and especially they're used to how it's set, and you get in and you're kind of like, how do I got to find that right spot? Now some of these seats have memories, so you get out, you can dump the air and whatever, and it'll go right back to where it was. But yeah, those insane. I remember having plenty of talks with Mark, our uncle, or he'd be like, hey, because obviously the complaints I heard were the only ones that I heard, but he would hear as the top dog, like, hey, truck washers aren't doing very well or this. And you'd be like, what do you mean? We did great, but people had high standards. And now you don't think of how much we appreciate that now. Like those high standards of keeping a truck neat and tidy were like, they weren't holding it back. Like, hey, you missed a rim. And like you said, there's times where you're moving, there's 3 people there washing, and you're kind of leapfrogging, trying to get, okay, you take the steer, I'm in this drive, you're taking trailers, and sometimes you forget or conversation strikes up, so be it. But yeah, there was no holding back. It was, you kind of you're getting sloppy, and everybody takes criticism in its own unique way. And now I look back and I'm like, man, that was such a good trait to have, truck drivers that were selective and detailed to that, where if you missed a spot or missed a rim or the hubcap, that they were vocalizing it to someone, whether it was me or even you, my Uncle Mark, whoever. And it was that was part of trucking. This wasn't just an industry to change jobs or move around. It was take pride in your ride, look good, feel good. I believe that, and showing up to customers like you are a shiny red truck. Even though now polishing tanks, and a lot of times they're covered and this and that, I understand this isn't an all aluminum polish game anymore. It used to be, right?
Yeah.
10 years ago, shiny tanks, like you could tell when a guy, you still can, you go down the road and you see a Peterbilt or Kenworth, or it doesn't matter what brand, I guess, and some shiny tanks, like they're taking pride in the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Like they feel good about it.
Yeah, it was a whole different environment back then as far as washing and keeping the trucks clean, and same with polishing. I mean, we polished. I don't even know how many rims and fuel tanks I polished in my life, but I think my hands and stuff are definitely.
You'll feel it in another 20 years.
Yeah,
you're going to be like,
I'm going to have
all
arthritis in them because we did it all by hand. We didn't even do it machine. We did everything by hand, and we did it week upon week upon week.
Well, and there's the same boat here, right? We'd wash and we'd then get eager and we'd say, hey, let's polish an end dump. And I don't know what that energy comes from, but once you get about a third in, you're like, oh my gosh, we should have rethought this one through and just polished some tanks and rims. But we always got her done. It was one of those grind through it.
I took on the challenge of my life and polished a fuel tanker, the entire trailer by hand. That was one of them ones where it was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do this? And this is a new trailer. I mean, it wasn't even that old, so it wasn't that bad, but you would think it'd be easy. Good luck.
Yeah.
It was awful.
I've been fortunate, and I know you have too, to meet quite a few people that are very good at polishing. And for anyone that's didn't know this about Sean Porter, but he is the master when it comes to polishing tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that. You want to talk about a mirror, those tanks, you can clear reflection of yourself. Yeah. And he kept them up and sanding them down, right? That's a big commitment. And like we're talking about, we would start polishing an end dump. We didn't sand them down or any of that, but he would go through and sand out the front of his tanks because on those Peterbilts, they'd get rock chipped in the bottom third, bottom quarter. He'd go through and sand all that
up. The newer or the more, as years went on, they started to change the aluminum compound and the aluminum for whatever reason, because I remember from polishing on old trucks, the front of the tanks would be a lot easier. And then as the years went on, they started to show more and more rock chips and tarnish and pitting. So obviously the compound or whatever they put into the aluminum cheapened up, I guess is moral of the story, and made it a lot harder because then it was just a darker gray. It was a dull gray. So if you didn't sand it down and get down to fresh material,
because that polish would just kind of sit in those pits and it'd give that dark gray, purple look type deal. Yeah.
And talk about cuts on your hands between washing the trucks. The Peterbilts we had with all the lights and the chrome and the fender guards and all the stuff. I mean, those things you'd slice your hand almost every single weekend on something, and then trying to polish, catch it on a step or a battery box, trying to do an air tank. Yeah. The Peterbilts were the worst steps to polish around because those things were so pointy and sharp. Well, no, the actual steps that you step on, when you were trying to do the diamond plate. Yeah. So there was definitely some killer things on trucks when you're trying to polish them things. But yeah, we used to polish like there's no tomorrow. I mean, everything, trucks, trailers, everything we had, granted it was not a fleet of what we got today, so it was a lot more manageable in that respect, but we would typically try to, when I was doing it, rotate out, see every single truck and trailer got polished once a month.
Yeah.
Now, I said, we're far from that today, but
well, the trucks are different too, right? Like I said, we've spec trucks different, and we've done that intentionally, right? There's a deeper appreciation for efficiencies. And
that's a small fleet. You can't do that at a large fleet size, period. So it ultimately it comes down to that small fleet mentality.
Yeah. Well, and I think so, the concept that we're getting to here is not about fully grinding out your tanks and trying to, fully and buff them out and all that. Of course, that's amazing when you see it, like I said, appreciate it, but it's more of like the fundamentals, right? We give you 2 truck washes a month, right? And we might not see you all the time. You might not make it up to Duluth. And if you do make it up to Duluth, there might be a long list of trucks in front of you. So you might not hit that opportunity. We're getting 2 times a month to wash it. And just distilling that down, so maybe you've been in clean roads, but taking the time, getting it washed once a month, going through even, and let's just not even say wash, the appearance that you project. Now, let's talk about some of the things that we have seen that make it tough to say that you appreciate the vehicle and the amount. Let's just go there. Is when you have things hanging or rubbing against paint, right? Bungee cords, just, we all do it. When you put them away, you lay them down and you wrap one around it and you kind of create a little sling and yes, it's convenient to have them hanging on your drum or right there by your steps to go up in your heady crack, but they're slinging around and they're doing this or that, or they could be rubbing on the fuel tank, or they could be rubbing on the paint. Let's not to mention when they get full of ice, or if they wrap around the drive line and then they rip out all kinds of other things. There's so much to be aware of. So I guess where I'm going with this is it doesn't necessarily only mean how clean you keep your truck. It's how neat you keep it organized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many times have we seen, I've seen people just put water bottles and stuff, they don't, or little things in their steps, and they don't, and this isn't just here, right? This is industry wide. I look at every truck when I pass it. There's things just laying around on the back of the truck. Yes, it might not blow off, but really, like, you can't take the time to organize and put things away and keep it tidy, so you're not sharing that opportunity for it to fall off, or inviting an inspection in, and the inspector guy or gal is like, why is this milk crate just laying here?
Yep. Yeah, no, it's definitely, the biggest thing that's really can be frustrating, like you said, when you see bungees and stuff hanging and it's rubbing through paint, or they're up against a fuel tank, and, the driver, that's, I hung them there. And it's like, there's metal hooks on the bungees. Metal rubbing on aluminum, metal's harder than aluminum. It does wear through the fuel tank, and it will rupture eventually a hole. It may take a long time, but it will do that. Rubbing up against, behind the fairings on the back of the cab, it's rubbing on the paint. Well, guess what? When we go to trade that truck, we now have to send it into the body shop, have the fiberglass repaired, if not replaced, repainted. What people do to the outsides of these things when they're hanging stuff on them, sometimes I like to say, let's just put this into layman's terms, and I'm going to take this sack of bungees and I'm going to hang it on your car door and just go drive, leave it that way for the next year, and let's see what it does to your car door. Well, I'm not going to do that. It'll scratch it. Well, that's the same thing of what these trucks are. And at the end of the day, that's your image. That's pride in your ride. You want to show up, and now you've got a big circle where the bungees have been swaying and rubbed through, and there's all kinds of black from the rubber on it. That doesn't look good. That doesn't look professional. At the end of the day, it's your image, and it's what people see. The minute you pull up to load at these customers' facilities, there still is a lot of them, whether or not they're in a building watching through a camera or if they're looking out their window. But when they see you pull up and there's stuff hanging everywhere on it, and it's all rub marks and looks like the thing went through World War III and back, that's an image of, oh, gee, man, this guy really doesn't take the best of care of their equipment. Or you come in, you have a truck nice and tidied up, it's clean, bungees, or everything's organized. Those are the things that people look at.
Tarps, so like I said, we're talking about just truck right now, but when just hypothetically, you're empty, there's still an image to portray. And when you have tarps that are poorly secured, or how many times have you seen tarps where they fall off the front of the trailer, right? And they get caught in the wheels, and it's such a dangerous thing. And I don't think people realize how often it happens. Not only is it very costly, but you could have a very bad outcome if those things start a fire, get caught up, twist things up, rip all your airlines out if they do. Not to mention when they get wedged in there, it's heavy tarp wedged in between your tire and it could be the APU or whatever it is.
We have piles of tarps out here that fell off the front of the trailer because of the way they were tied down, whether or not it was when they had to hit their brakes hard or what have you, and they're completely worn right through, and it's
so
hard
that's a good point to talk about securing your tarps. Secure them so that the tarp is running with the truck and the trailer. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to secure them.
Not across the front.
Not across the front. And so if you've run them across the front and you haven't had it happen yet, doesn't mean that it can't. It seems like they work their way out because you're pinching down on the ends, you're not getting a good securement, and then say there's some ice or they're just slippery or rattling down the road, and then they work their way out and they kind of pivot from the center, like a barn door, because they're not secured very well, and then they fall onto the front of the truck.
And it happens all the time. So please
secure
don't do
them
it,
so that they're not across the front of your trailer, so that they're the long way, so you're actually getting a good tight strap down when you put them there, because that's just a dangerous spot. And then when you even got to get on your deck, you're having to completely clear those tarps as like a full piece, versus when they're running with the trailer, you have the edges and there's still deck space available. It's a slipping hazard trying to get on your deck.
It is trip hazard too.
Another thing to think of when you look at image is your airlines and your electrical cord. For me, like I know someone's paying attention to their unit when that is suspended properly, it's not dragging on the mats. I know people put rubber down and they might lay their lines there. I still don't think that's the best way. I think we suspend them for a reason. We put the slinkies there, we give opportunity, but sometimes you might have to use a bungee to kind of find that sweet spot, or a special zip tie in a certain area. I used to have a few of different zip ties that I've had.
Different spots.
So I had different trailers. I could I'd adjust my bungee to here, and then I would have enough slack so it wasn't dragging. I've taken time when I've had downtime and braided my airlines.
Mm-hmm.
I've done different things. We've got wrap we put around them. Anything we're trying to do to not allow for a DOT violation. But like I said, for me, it's higher than that. I see that you have such a fine attention to detail that you care about the way your connection is. And like I said, some people listen to this might be like, what does it matter, right? What does it matter? But to me and to you, and when you wash enough trucks, you get your hands on all these different types of operators, you start to see what leads to the best outcome. The people that are working all the time are the people that are paying attention to the little things, because they're not in a shop, or they're not broke down, or they're not getting a bad DOT violation, because things start to create what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say if you've had a couple dings on your record for not, little things that it didn't happen in the moment, but it seems like if you're not prepared,
mm-hmm.
you're going to be the one that gets caught, or going to get some sort of violation, or be the one that, right, it's going to show up. And so it's a funny little thing. And I think here's a good way to put this in a quotes term. If you fail to prepare to fail. I think that's a great quote when you think of this situation. And every time you take that vehicle you take something for granted and don't check it, and you skimp on one of your normal pre-trip spots, or you trust this, or you don't check the axle pins every time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you've noticed it, whether it was our truck or we see all these vans going down the road. I mean, we're looking at things all the time, and you see where you're like, those aren't locked in. That pin's not locked in. This isn't secured. I mean, if you fail to prepare to fail. That's like, that statement really goes anywhere in life, but specifically here.
Yeah, it does.
Another one that I look at, like I said, this isn't all about truck washing, right? Yes, a neat, tidy, clean truck is important, but is your winches. Let's talk about winches now. So we're an open deck carrier, and our winches on both sides of the trailers, right? Some carriers only put winches on one side, but we do both.
Mm-hmm.
And we put sliding winches all the way across the top of the axles. Now, there are some trailers where they've been blocked out, and probably for the right reasons, right? Because we keep finding that the winches are hitting the tire. But paying attention, even when you're empty, to where those winches are. And being courteous of the next driver you set up. We don't do an insurmountable amount of drop and hook, but if you are dropping trailers and you're the one that dropped the trailer sitting on the winch, or you dropped it with a whole tire gouged out because the winch ate a strip, a good strip on it, and not come forward with it, that's such a big piece of setting the next person up for success, is being transparent or paying attention. If you pay attention to every trailer that you hook up to and you try to leave it in a better condition than you found it, you're paying it forward.
Yeah,
you're doing the right thing.
And that's the biggest thing, especially like you said with winches. And I know over time winches can, there's many things that can happen to them, but my biggest thing that I would always see is if, a guy loads a trailer and there's times you got to put a winch over a tire. Well, when you drop it, the air drops on the trailer. So, being mindful, okay, I'm going to drop this thing, and either one, notifying people and loosening that winch and moving it forward so you don't drop it on that tire. But, in the end, when you drop them on there, one, it bends it, and two, it can break belts in the tire.
Yeah.
But just little things like that, or even taking a group of them and saying 7, 8, 10 of them and putting them together and bungeeing them together so they're there. Otherwise, they do move up and down while you're going down the highway. They rattle. Yeah. I know one thing, too, you hit a bunch of bumps and all you can hear is the things
winches
chiming
clanking
back there. Yeah, so, just doing that to try and stop from making the noise. But at the end of the day, it is wearing stuff out every time them things are moving. So keeping them tidied goes a long way, and also strategically placing them throughout the trailer where you need them. So when you get somewhere, you don't have everything all the way to the front. Now you got to try and fight, especially in the winter. You get snow,
it's all full of ice,
grit, sand, stuff up in there, they don't like to move that well. So having them kind of strategically placed, but then also utilizing, as you're tying down, and sometimes it takes running from one side to the other here nor there to make sure you're staggering as you're hooking your straps. So then when it comes time, you don't get there and like, oh man, now I got to loosen 5 straps because this one doesn't have a winch. So definitely takes a little bit of strategy on that point with those winches. But again,
where do you think the industry got lost though? And like the attention to detail got lost, right? Like I feel like for me, it's satisfying to leave some equipment in a situation that sets that next person up, because you're also setting the standard, right? You hook up to a trailer, all the winches are neatly organized, whether it's in a couple groups, they're bungeed, or they're in one group in the center, but the ends are blocked, you know what I mean? So the winches can't walk. It's like, wow, that was somebody paid attention to this and somebody did it right. Where do you think, like this kind of just is with all of these past episodes where we're kind of unpacking like the old school trucking style versus nowadays, how did that get lost? Is it because it's not a standard? Is it not enough of a standard to say, like, you drop the equipment, you're responsible for tidying it up for the next guy so he doesn't take off or the trailer not aired all the way up and dragging a winch? Like, how did we lose that touch in this industry, you think?
I think some of it obviously is, from our standards or where we started out, because if you did that, you heard about it. You caught wind very quickly. It wasn't like it just swept under the rug per se, where nowadays, and our size, it's hard, I mean, without having a trailer cop basically sitting there checking every person in and out and really on top of it, it's easy for people to slide under the radar and get away with it. Or they're just saying, well, I found it this way, so what, and we were always brought up, leave it better than you found it, Think of the next person. Don't, you were in a warm building. Why didn't you arrange the winches? You were standing there doing nothing. Why didn't you fix this? You unloaded, we'd have times you unload somewhere and you had plenty of time to fix it. Why didn't you fix it? Now you screwed the next guy, So I think it's just really taking the accountability and I always do it, I'll see things out in the yard and I'm not even a driver anymore, but if I'm moving a trailer or this or that, as soon as I see something, I'll let the shop know and say, hey, this trailer, it's got 3 bent winches on it and they're useless or they're not working properly. Well, that's setting somebody up for failure, even though we put 15 winches on each side of each trailer, which is, in many cases, fleets would say overkill. But at the end of the day, we haul a little bit of everything. So having that versatility to make sure you can tie your load down properly has always been a crucial thing for us. So we've always said 15 winches, usually I remember ordering a trailer and the salesman's like, what? I've never even heard of this. You're crazy. And it's like 15 winches aside and that's bottom line, so we've always wanted to make sure to have proper tie down winches.
You'll set you up for success.
To set people up for success, and it makes it a lot easier for them.
Yeah.
But in the end, I always look at it like, okay, I might only be pulling this trailer for 1 day or 2 days, but noticing all the stuff that has issues, and if I can arrange it or tidy it up and I have time to do that, I'm definitely going to do it. But if it's something that's beyond my control, letting the shop know or letting, fleet know, hey, this is wrong on that trailer so we can address it, because there's nothing worse than getting somewhere and you can't do your job right.
100%. There's so much to it that, things have evolved and changed, but I still think these standards are the same. And here's another one that I can tell you're paying attention to the situation. And I understand there's sometimes you got to get up and go because you got to make your reload, but dunnage. And I used to take a lot of pride. I didn't have a dunnage rack a lot of times in the trailers that when I was trucking a lot of my dunnage, I neatly stacked it on my trailer. I made sure that it was organized. I made sure the thickest pieces were in the middle and the smaller. So I made sure that my strap was touching it. And I always made sure that my dunnage looked good on my trailer. It was just another way of me saying I'm in control of this truck. And I can't tell you now some of the situations when trailers, like you had said, we don't even truck a lot and we might be walking through the yard, but I'll get a trailer and I'll be like, why am I pulling nails out of this? Right. Or why am I trying to beat dunnage? Who left the dunnage all in our scattered and for the next person? Like how are you contributing to an industry that we want to take control of? We're tired of complaining about everybody and the way the truck stops and the way the drivers act and this, but yet we allow ourselves to do that. And it's such a simple simple thing, and the time is minimal. And really, and honestly, it's a good keep your body active, right? Get out there and take care of the situation, take ownership. It's one of my favorite books, even, is written by Jocko Willink, and talking about ownership, and how you take control of everything. Like you have to assume responsibility. You can't always say, well, this happened or this person gave it to me. I picked the trailer up that way and that's how it was.
It's always pointing fingers. Everybody points the finger, and in many cases, this is the way I got it, or vice versa, and it's like, just take ownership. And like you said, I get it. If it's 20 below out and you're in northern Minnesota, we don't expect you to be out there pulling nails out of the deck, but when the time prevails, or when you can, or at least letting people know, if you're up here and you see that on a trailer and it's extremely cold, then let's tell the fleet team so we can lock it out and get the trailer in and get things addressed. There's many things that can happen to it, and just turning our head or saying, well, that's the way it was when I got it, so I don't care, it's not my problem. It isn't helping. That's not team
the industry
building. That's
or
not
the
taking
company.
care of your team. No,
right.
Not at all. And that's where you get a bad name for things. So just caring about what you have going on is ultimately the biggest thing. And I remember, we'd pull trailers for other carriers. It wasn't even our trailer, and there'd be something, I'd be like, hey, I just want to let you know this thing was acting up, or this was flickering, or whatever it may be, because in the end, it's somebody else is going to be stuck with that when they go down the road, whether it's your truck or whoever's truck. But at the end of the day, if people don't work together,
it just defeats the purpose.
It doesn't fix itself.
And the book I was talking about is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. So that's a good audio book if you're sitting there and you need a little pick me up. He's a Navy SEAL, an ex-Navy SEAL. He's an author now, and he talks a lot about ownership on the battlefield and how these type of things we're talking about, although it may not be out at war, the little things build over time. And taking ownership, and kind of say, like you had said, like, this doesn't matter whose trailer it is, I'm hooked to it. So it's going to be in my expectations. It's going to hit my expectations, and I'm going to take care of it, and living to that standard. And also, some people get to that spot where, like, oh, every trailer, I get it, right? Like, standards are hard to meet for every person, especially like if you're new. But I consider our equipment top of the line compared to industry, right? And so now that when I see a very nice trailer with dunnage just sporadically spread all over, or straps laying open on the, like somebody took their tarps off but left the strap and let it blow over. It's like, where did it come from to roll up the straps and put them away, or take everything with you, or tidy it up, like you said, for the next one, or make sure the dunnage is fair, or hey, there was some trash that I put in the dunnage rack. Instead of just leaving it there, take care of the situation and unload it, put it away.
Maybe it was because of where you're at, the location you were at. You couldn't leave them there, so you had to put it there. But then remembering when you get somewhere to, dispose of it, not just leave it for the next person. As some of the drivers that have been with us for a long time know, we used to have toolboxes on all our trailers to put the tarps in. Great idea. Works slick. Well, we come to find all the toolboxes were full of garbage. And never tarps in them, nothing but garbage in the toolboxes. So we finally did away with them and got rid of them because we were just carrying more weight. I mean, literally, there was so much garbage in the toolboxes, it became a garbage can. And, the whole point of it was to put tarps in there. So just goes to show, some of the things in the laziness, oh, nobody sees it in here, it's tidied up, and they throw it in there and forget about it. Well,
so do you think that's kind of maybe like when I was saying what's happening with the industry? Is it the people are saying that nobody cares, so they're like, why should I care? Or is there truly just like a laziness thing where maybe they didn't come through the ranks like we had to, and they understood like quality equipment means a quality job? Like, there's nothing, and when you have the right stuff set up, like, and your job goes flawlessly, it's amazing. When it's not, then you have the times I'm waiting for a road call, right? I have this going on, my tire blew, like you said, because they don't realize that dropping the air with their winch on their tire can break the belts, and over time that tire can explode, right, or come apart. It's just, how do you we want this industry to prevail and show that the truck driving community is paramount to this country. Like, things don't happen, to your point earlier, like you order things so it comes by truck. Things don't happen unless there's truckers involved. We keep America moving. We make things happen. Why are we not portraying ourselves that way. Like we're warriors of the road, we're captains of whatever you want to call it, but we are professionals, and we have a professional industry that needs its standards back. And how does it just get that frail and fall apart? And like I said, this isn't just our company. Of course, we want our company to be the best and everybody to do what we're talking about to help strengthen it. But how does the industry just get to that lack of care? I mean, so we've talked about empty most of the time. Now, going down the road, your tarp is blowing everywhere. Once again, everything is situational. I understand that. Maybe you couldn't reach the top spot to put a bungee or this or that, or the back flap is, I don't know. When did it become acceptable to not do the job to the highest standard every time?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. If I did, I think I'd be well beyond where we are today.
But you'd be a motivational speaker.
A lot of it does reflect around laziness. And I think a lot of times, more often than not, what happens is the laziness sets in because when you are a driver and you're out there, you're on your own. You don't have your superior standing there seeing your work performance, what you're doing. Why is your workstation dirty? Clean it up. You don't have that. You're on your own. So at the end of the day, I mean, we all do it. We're all guilty for it. I'll just do that tomorrow, but then they don't put that task on tomorrow's list, and if you don't stay on top of it, then that's where this, what we call laziness, comes into play. And I think it continues to build and get worse and worse and worse,
snowballs.
I guess, in more cases than not. And it's not everybody. I'm not saying everybody. I mean, like I said, everybody's guilty of having their moments. But at the end of the day, you also got to take some credibility and say, you know what, I'm going to do this because this is my job and this is part of my duties.
When we've paved a roadmap here in these last 3 episodes talking about hard work, clean interior, now a tidy exterior, a clean exterior, and it's high standards. Everything we've talked about is the highest of high standards. Like you're living an owner-operator lifestyle. I think if you overlook that and don't appreciate that, you're missing the whole concept here, right? I think no matter what your desire to be, whether it's heavy haul, whether it's specialized niche, whether it's to buy your own truck in the future, whether it's just to be a top-of-the-line company driver and earn the most money you can and have the best time doing it, these are the standards that we need to live by. This is not optional. And I feel like when you find people that are attracted to this concept, like let's come together, let's bring a group of people together that have the same values, that want to do things right, do things efficiently, right? There's no reason to not do things to the best of our ability to stretch whatever it might be to the most useful lifespan of that. But then to also have high standards, so your brother, that we can call him quote unquote on the road, when you see another Kivi truck, you're proud and you're representing the same thing they are, that we have high standards and we want things done right and we want to live the old school lifestyle, because it's starting to unravel as an industry where you have to put so many levers in place just to get anything done, because we've lost touch with trust. And that's both ways, right? Drivers don't trust office staff. They think everybody's out for them. And office staff starts to get leery when, drivers are not on time, or there's equipment always breaking down, or you start to try to figure out where's this coming from. And if everybody can just scale it back and say, let's take control, let's take ownership of our situation. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to deliver the best I can. I'm going to do everything like we've talked. And on the same side, flip the coin over to the office staff and even ourselves, right? We hold high standards. Let's deliver those high standards. Let's hold accountability on those high standards. I mean, we haven't even went into compliance, and I think there's a whole nother level of compliance here. That will be another episode when we start talking about the compliance side of the regulations, right? We can't choose that, but what does it mean to be a top tier old school driver that lives standards, the gold standard? Like, what does it mean? So there's time to kind of debunk that one. But as we can see, everything we've done is to explain how hard this job is. And it might sound counterproductive what we've done, but I really believe that it's productive to talk about it, to paint the picture, to make sure that people understand that we're starting to take a turn down what I believe a dark path for the industry. And we need to course correct, grab the steering wheel and take ownership. And let's start with our company. Let's start with every driver here. Let's show what can be done, and let's help paint the picture of our professional drivers and what we want them to be and what we want them to uphold. Because when our uncles came home for Christmas, when we were at home, or our dad parked the truck out on the road, we were as proud as a peacock. Like, we were proud. We lived that lifestyle. Trucks are in our blood. But seeing that truck coming in the driveway, seeing that truck on the road, blowing the horn, recognizing your co-worker, whether it was same company or not, having respect for each other, it was such a profound feeling. And that's what I want everyone to feel. I want you to recognize another truck driver as how important they are to this industry, not just a truck driver, not just a lazy truck driver, not just a driver that's going to, let their tires go sideways for the next driver. Like,
Correct.
and I don't know, maybe I'm dying on a soapbox here of just the industry, but I feel like we're talking 10 to 15 years macro change, not just little. It took several micro changes to build up to this macro level now of the industry, and we're trying to bring it back. We're trying to bring back those instrumental decision-making abilities and control back to us, to the driver.
Yeah, it's definitely been tarnished over the past few years, several years, and like you said, there's so much more to it, and I think people could put so much more effort into it instead of just jumping in that truck and trying to drive from A to B. And this is all I'm doing. I'm going to do the least amount I got to do. You hear people say that, and it's like, why?
It's lost touch with what this industry is.
And it's not even just trucking; it's in general. Just society. So many people are, I'm going to go do my job to the least of my, just so I get by. I fly under the radar, and that's it. I'm not going to try to, and it's like, whatever that organization, whatever that company may be, that's your paycheck, that's your living, and if you're not going to put forth your best effort and do the best you can to take care of it as if it's your own, because that is what's putting food on your table, to me, it just seems like it's
laziness. I don't know what the best word to say it is. I say that with the most respect to every driver out there right now. Like, we're talking grand scheme in this industry, but it starts with one too. And I think that's the most important thing. People listen to this, and I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. You're not just a number. You're not just a number. Every single decision you make plays into the success of this company. Every decision we make plays into the success of this company. We are in this together, and we're lining up on the battlefield together. But when you hear this and you start to say, hey, maybe I've gotten a little complacent. Maybe I've let things slip. Maybe I've
we have a new year coming up. So guess what? Time to make the New Year's resolution and
live the old school. Try being an old school trucker for a year. Try it. I guarantee you'll come out with a higher satisfaction of your job. You're going to have a more profound takeaway. You're going to recognize yourself when you look into that truck stop and you see 200 trucks and you are the gold standard. That's living. And that's what a deeper purpose is than just a paycheck. That's how you walk away with respect, and you help build that, set the standard. So, that's kind of takeaway. It's like we've said, New Year resolution. You don't always need a fresh calendar year to start something, but why not now? Why not raise the bar? Let's change this industry. 2025 outlook, since we're kind of on that, I think I'm really optimistic. I really think that this is going to be the year for
there's specifically a lot of change in this country,
but and it's going to fall back. It's not going to always continue to go as the more technology, the better prevails. It's going to go now to these old school things we're talking about. The companies that have high value on relationships and personal, right? Keep trucking personal. That's what we want to bring back. We want to bring back those old school values. And I believe those things we are talking about are going to be the difference maker for 2025. It's not going to be just the complete market flips and you just take away. It's going to be taking ownership of your situation, leaving what you've got now better for the next person, tidying up the interior of your truck. I mean, I can't explain how much value that has for a driver and for everyone. Hard work, making sure that you paint an image going down the road that says you are professional and you deserve to be here. Help us drive out that old saying of a steering wheel holder, right? And I didn't even.
They're not.
Right. They're not. But you hear it. You hear other drivers call their drivers steering holders.
That's not the case. I mean, nobody is. I mean, at the end of the day, step up and let's all do our part.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see some of what some of these trucks look like and what they're doing, it's like, you can do so much better, and I feel even our standards within the office, it's like, well, we could just throw our computers all over the place and have one monitor hanging on this wall and the other one half broke and turned off, but we're not, we're trying to do the best we can to be as efficient as we can for everybody, and working collectively as a team is the utmost thing, and when we say keep trucking personal, who does it more than the leadership within this company? I mean, I'm out in the yard looking at trailers, transferring pieces, helping guys, pointing out things, showing guys tips. I haven't so much as of late, but spent many weekends, Saturdays working in the shop because we were short people helping out. We care. I mean, if anybody cares more, I don't really know of many more operations that get in as deep as we do. I mean, there are companies out there that are the same way, but there's not many. Most of them are in their office, and when you see them, they're not touching none of that stuff. Well, so-and-so go do it. We roll our sleeves up and we take part in it because we care. So we just ask that everybody else that's part of this team cares and does the same thing, because we're giving it our every single day, 7 days a week effort, whether, in practically 24 hours a day, we're here answering, helping, trying to fix. There's times where our fleet team or our safety team might ask a question, yourself or me might chime in Sunday evening. I just answered a fleet question a couple days ago at, I think it was 4:50 in the morning, and I was helping them. So these are the things that we're doing our part to help and prove that we do care. So everybody else step up your game a little bit. Let's all step it up a notch and see where things will go.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm excited. Like I said, these are deep conversations, and they're really touching on. The good thing is it's not that far away. It's little changes, subtle changes, paying attention, courtesy. I think I'm kind of amazed still with some of I guess I can't speak for everyone, but we still have a lot of personal conversations, very heavy on conversations through the phone. It's amazing sometimes what people are willing to say over the phone, and in a bad way, right? And here's another opportunity to tighten the belt and say, look, I'm going to be courteous, I'm going to be professional. I'm going to extend the olive branch anytime I can over the phone. I'm going to play into this team atmosphere, and I can assure you these traits will set you up for success, and you'll be a winner no matter what you do.
Exactly.
So, a lot to unpack there. I mean, like I said, there's more time to get into following episodes on just that compliance side. I think there's a lot to pay there. So listening to this, Christmas is right around the corner. Let's make sure if there's anything you can do to pay it forward, you help set your coworker up for success. You take the time with your opportunities to get Christmas shopping done. Fortunately, Derek said his is done. And if you're looking for gifts to buy for a fellow driver or really anyone, the things we listed earlier, pocket knife, light, headlamp, gloves, the list goes on and on. Windshield holder for your cell phone, little cool things like that. You'll be surprised. It might seem subtle, but a driver will appreciate it.
Yes, by all means.
Well, Derek, thanks for catching up. Until next time, happy trucking.
Happy trucking.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kivi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.